Hi, I'm Kevin Scott with 100 Huntley Street, and I am so excited to be with Nicole Baker-Fulgham today, the founder and president of the Expectations Project. Nicole, it is so great to be with you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Expectations Project. What is this organization and what are the goals?
Sure. The Expectations Project is a national nonprofit organization whose mission is to mobilize and equip faith-motivated advocates to help improve low-income public schools in our nation. And we really see working on behalf of kids in some of the poorest communities to help improve their schools as an extension of our faith and a biblical calling to really live out issues of justice and service in the world.
Wow. Okay, so really cool. So getting people of faith involved in helping close the achievement gap, that's what you would say?
Exactly, helping to close the achievement gap. Right now, there are about 16 million kids in our country who are living in poverty. And when you look at their achievement rates, only half of them will graduate from high school, and only 10% of them will ever graduate from college. And for us as Christians, I deeply believe in every child being made in the image of God and in his likeness. And so as a result, I believe all kids have incredible potential. But we have to have school systems that are set up to ensure that they're able to access that potential, which is why this is a massive issue, I think, in our nation, but certainly for Christians to get involved in.
Okay. All right. So for you to be this passionate about it, there has to be something that happened or some event that inspired you. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got so passionate about the issue of education.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, which people probably know is not really known for having awesome public schools, unfortunately. And I was fortunate, though, to get accepted into what's called an exam public high school. So you take a test to get into it. And we had amazing teachers, resources, advanced placement classes in a public high school in Detroit. The distinction, though, was that when we walked in on day one, every teacher was not saying, so are you going to go to college? It was, where are you going to go to college? And we're going to start from freshman year and make sure you're on track to doing that. And not surprisingly, 99% of us went on to four-year colleges, and now people are, physicians and engineers and attorneys and just really making an impact in the world. The difference, though, for my friends who lived on my street in Detroit, the neighborhood high school that I would have attended had none of that. Half of my friends dropped out of high school and didn't graduate. In fact, my brother and I are two of the three kids we know of in our neighborhood that went on to a four-year college. And when I think about the expectations that I had at my public high school, my friends didn't have, at the neighborhood public high school, the disparity was just so stark. And again, both of these are Detroit public high schools. And for me, as I grew in my faith and became a more committed Christian in college, that challenge of just knowing that I got something because of where I was and my friends didn't just really stuck with me, and it seemed so inequitable when I knew the potential they had. So when I was in college, I joined a program called Teach for America and went out to teach in Compton, California, which is near South Central Los Angeles, and honestly saw a lot of the same challenges I saw growing up in Detroit, but this time I was on the side of the other side of the desk as a teacher trying to figure out, okay, if you think all kids can learn, what does that really mean in the context of being a teacher? And through just a lot of hard work and inviting a lot of volunteers in from my church at the time in California, my kids just grew tremendously. So kids in fifth grade who couldn't read at the beginning of the year, literally could not read in fifth grade, were reading chapter books by the end of the year. And I just walked away from that experience believing every child has potential, but we have to give them the right set of structures to make sure they can achieve that.
Wow. So talk to me about the Expectations Project. So you believe that it starts with, as you talked about in your high school, that it starts with having a higher expectation of those students and what they want for their lives. How do you help actually implement that across a school or a school system?
Well, for us, we believe part of the expectation that's needed is that our society needs to raise our expectations for what kids can achieve. And it's sort of a nice platitude to say, oh gosh, all kids can achieve. But I think if we really deeply ask ourselves, do we truly believe that every child can achieve at a high level, even if, their parents are incarcerated or they just moved here from another country and don't speak much English, whatever the issue is, that's a deep sort of mindset shift. And so our organization believes that we need many, many more people to become advocates, to speak up on behalf of the possibilities of kids in our communities. And honestly, what better people to do that than Christians and people of faith, because we are the ones who are called to see things that are not as though they would be. And we can really be prophetic people to really proclaim what's possible for all of God's kids. And so part of what we do through our organization is to build awareness about the scope of the problem. Here's the depth of the challenge, but also we spend a lot of time educating our congregations on what's working in public schools with this particular population, because there are so many great things like, high quality preschool makes a difference. Having policies that support and retain highly effective teachers is not rocket science, but it's a game changer, right? It really can change the game for kids. And so we educate people on those types of things, connect them to ways they can volunteer in public schools today, but also train them to become advocates so we can see systemic change in our school system, which takes a lot of people to push the public and really the political will to bring those changes to bear.
Okay, so if I'm a Christian or I'm a person of faith and I'm at my church, what can a church do to get involved? How can a church take a more active role in their community to make their schools and their children better equipped to meet the challenges of this world?
Well, the first thing we encourage congregations to do is to build awareness in their community, right? So, we have resources on our website at theexpectationsproject.org that people can utilize, and they're free to download and use in your congregation to start to talk about this issue. But then really the next step is for someone in the congregation, the leadership, to reach out to a local public school that is struggling and literally with no agenda of our own, just simply go and ask, this is our congregation, here's where we are, how can we be helpful? And that very open question, I think people often may be surprised, wait, do schools want help? We're a church, is a public school going to want us there? But that simple question of asking how can we help just opens up the opportunity for a congregation to do everything from tutoring, mentoring, supporting the teachers in their classrooms. And it's through that process that I think a congregation really gets a sense of both the challenge and the possibility, which, then we are happy to help those congregations think through what are the sort of long-term issues that you should be advocating for that are going to really bring, again, that systemic transformational change to that school and potentially that entire school district.
Yeah. Nicole, I think you're hitting on something that's so important because this idea of giving without expecting, one of my friends who's a pastor says, giving with ministry with no strings attached.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're at a church and we say, well, if we get involved with our school, then more of them will come to our church or they'll participate in our youth activities. And you're saying that for Christians, we really need to take an attitude of Christ, which is serving and saying, how can we go and help make these schools a better place?
Absolutely, with no expectation of anything that may happen in return. And, the good news is that something will probably happen in return that will, surprise everyone about the benefits that go both ways. But truly just coming in and saying, we want to be the hands and feet of Christ in this community and love the families, love the children, love the teachers and the principal, and just come alongside them to help ensure that all of their kids get a quality education. I mean, that's truly pouring into a community and saying we believe that every child in the school has potential and purpose, and we just want to be helpful to see that purpose realized. It's pretty awesome when it happens.
Tell me a success story, something that's happened with the Expectations Project that has maybe even exceeded your expectations about what was possible.
Sure. We're doing work in Indianapolis, and Indiana is one of 7 states actually in the country that doesn't have preschool that they offer as an option for families. And so we've been doing a lot in the state to build in our congregations to build awareness about why preschool matters, especially for a family who has economic challenges. The parents can't afford to stay home and maybe don't even know how to stay home and instruct the child on what they might need. And so it's just a real need for low-income families. And so we've done some things in partner with preschools where our congregations have gone in to tutor in existing private preschools. But as one of our pastors says, it's great to tutor 15 kids in a preschool, but what would it look like to work to get preschool availability for 1,500 kids or 15,000 kids in the state of Indiana or in Indianapolis? And we did a lot of work really building awareness about the need for preschool. And just this past spring, the state legislature did actually pass a bill where 1,500 low-income families now can use vouchers to go take their kids to preschool. They've never done that before. And let me be clear, it was the work of dozens of other organizations. Our work was really within the faith community space, but it was just really wonderful to see the community rally around an issue and to see that type of transformation happen because of just the collective efforts of so many people.
Yeah,
so for us, we
really
consider
cool.
that pretty
All
awesome.
right, here's my question. In the broader North American context, if I am not a pastor, I'm not on a church staff, but I am a Christian who's sitting at home, what can I do to get involved? What can I do to help make a difference in the lives of students in my community.
Definitely. One of the biggest needs that our schools have are tutors and volunteers to spend time, particularly for kids who are, 3 and 4 and 5 grade levels behind. The school day from 8 to 3 p.m. is just not going to be enough to get them even close to being caught up. So they need people who can come in and spend an hour a week helping students who are struggling with reading or math. That is just a huge opportunity. Every school or every school district has some way that you can volunteer and get plugged in, regardless of whether or not your church is doing something more broadly. I would make a plug, though, to say, once you start doing that, take that back to your church and share that with the leadership and say, gosh, this school has this amazing program. What would it look like to get 20 people from our congregation involved? And then I think from there springs that interest in, oh gosh, what else could we be doing at the school district level or at the state level that might have a deeper impact, again, on many, many more kids in this process.
What role do educators play in this, in equipping educators to be able to meet the needs, better meet the needs of those students?
Oh gosh, teaching is the hardest job. I was a teacher, as I said, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done, for sure. And I think educators, essentially, many of them need more people in their classroom, because if you have a class of 30 kids and they're all at dramatically different levels, it's so hard to differentiate and meet the needs of every child. But the more qualified adult volunteers you have in your classroom, the better. And also, teachers really need, at the district and state level, really high quality, what's called professional development. And so the more that we can support and encourage and really push gently through the political process, school districts and states to have that high quality support so teachers can get better and improve their practice, which means they improve student outcomes. Those two things are huge, but honestly, show our teachers some love, at the very smallest level, do something nice for them and, in your community, and encourage them, because they're with our kids every day, and it's a really, really challenging job.
Yeah. I just love the idea that people getting involved, helping raise the expectations for young people, better encourage and equip educators, and that's such an important role for people of faith. So I love what your organization is doing.
Thanks.
Tell us how we can learn a little bit more, or what's next for the Expectations Project.
Sure. Well, we're going to be working on some national sort of awareness campaigns in 2015, where we're really going to be encouraging congregations to lift up this issue throughout a season of time in their churches. And so there'll be some resources our website will have about that in 2015. So if you want to stay connected to that, please go to our website at theexpectationsproject.org and sign up for our email list, and really just join this movement, and we will be happy to send you resources and to work with your congregation. We promise we won't email you 20 times a day, but that's definitely a way that you can stay in touch with us. And there's a couple of books that we've published that are available on the website too, that are, I think, good resources and have companion discussion questions that a church can use to really discuss more about this issue of public education equity in the context of our Christian faith.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for what you do, how you're helping raise expectations with education, and thanks for taking time to be with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.